What's good, y'all? Welcome to my first ever mock draft. I know this is something I don't really do, but with the lottery being like almost a month ago now, and the draft is being right around the corner, I wanted to take the opportunity and make a mock draft so I can show you guys where I got these prospects going. There are a lot of good prospects this year, and a lot of good landing spots for these prospects. The draft is really just something I've been interested in, especially during this time where the draft is closed, teams are doing individual workouts. We're starting to get reports of possible trades that can go on during the draft night. Overall, I believe it's just an exciting time in the NBA world. I'm really interested in seeing y'all's reaction to my first draft. If you disagree with the player that I picked for your team, please let me know in the comments. I'm definitely gonna be looking at the comments for this video. Overall, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'm thinking about making a video of underrated / hidden gem prospects in this draft. So let me know if you guys want to see that. Other than that, I'll see y'all later. The first overall pick, I got the Spurs selecting Victor Wembanyama. Of course, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Victor was projected to be a first-round pick since the start of the season. But good for him that he's coming into a great organization, the Spurs, who have a great track record of creating generational big men like Tim Duncan and Duncan Robinson. Spurs already had an interesting future with Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, but adding Victor guarantees for them to have an even brighter future. First thing with Victor, he has great offensive game. He averaged 21.6 points. He's able to create off the dribble. He has good handles. He can post up, shoot in the mid-range. Although his three-point percentage isn't as great, I believe he'll be able to bring that up once he gets into the league. He's also a great rebounder, averaged 10.5 rebounds a game, and also a great rim protector, averaging 3.1 blocks a game. And of course, the main attraction with Victor is the fact that he's 7'4" with an 8-foot wingspan. He's also quite athletic for his height. Just the other day, I saw a video of him on Twitter doing a between the legs dunk. Seems like every single thing he does on the floor is a highlight play, and every single time I watch it, it shocks me at what he's able to do. With the second overall pick, I got the Charlotte Hornets selecting Scoot Henderson. I know this may seem like a controversial pick, but I do believe Scoot can be successful alongside LaMelo Ball. Just like Victor, Scoot is able to do everything on the floor. At 6'2", he's really explosive, a great playmaker, averaging 6.7 assists a game, has great handles and is not afraid of contact while attacking the rim, and he's also a good defender, averaging 1.2 steals a game. I believe that entering the G League was a great decision for him. He was only 17 years old when he entered, and that now allows him to have more experience than all his other peers in the NBA atmosphere. He also could have gone first overall in any other draft class, but of course, the hype surrounding Victor has made him drop down a spot. However, the main drawback to his game is the fact that he's a poor three-point shooter. He averaged 27.5% from behind the arc. I could potentially see him running the point guard and LaMelo running shooting guard. With both of them being such great facilitators, they can alternate between facilitating duties. And with LaMelo's playmaking and Scoot's explosiveness, it potentially makes him into a dangerous lob threat. Bringing in Scoot, the Hornets can probably trade away Terry Rozier, try to get some assets from that, and they could also package up Gordon Hayward's contract and finally get rid of that. With the third overall pick, I got the Trailblazers selecting Brandon Miller. This pick is really a mystery this year due to the fact that we don't know whether or not Trailblazers are actually going to trade this pick, or we don't know if teams are going to pick Brandon Miller at this spot due to the fact that the things that he was associated with in college. Other than that, Miller is a great player, and one of his main factors is the fact that he's an excellent three-point shooter. At Alabama, he was able to shoot 38% from behind the arc. At 6'9", he's able to shoot off the catch and shoot, off screens, and he has a good enough handle to shoot off the dribble as well. Along with his offense, he showed that he's also a really good playmaker, being able to create off the pick and roll. He's also a good rebounder, averaging 8.2 rebounds a game. Finally, on the defensive end, he showed that he could be a really good defender, averaging about a block and a steal a game. I've seen a lot of people compare him to Paul George, although I don't see it as much due to the fact of his lack of self-creation and his questionable finishing. I still consider Brandon to be one of the top prospects in this class, and he could potentially be the best three-point shooter in this class. With the fourth overall pick, I got the Houston Rockets selecting Amen Thompson. Amen comes into a perfect situation with the Rockets, who are in dire need for a point guard. During his 2 years at Overtime Elite, he was able to average 16.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 6.9 assists per game. At 6'7", he's able to go to the basket with ease, plus his 40-inch vertical makes him even harder to defend. However, the main drawback to his game is the fact that he's a bad three-point shooter. At OTE, he only shot 26% from three. I recently seen some footage from a pre-draft workout with Portland, and his shot looked very questionable as well. Hopefully, with the recent hire of Udoka, he can unlock that part of his game and make him at least a respectable three-point shooter. There have been many questions about the level of competition at OTE and if a man is really ready for the NBA. Although I believe he will need an adjustment period in the league, I still believe he can be a successful point guard in the NBA. Also, drafting a man can allow the Rockets to move on from KPJ and trying to get some assets from him. Also, if the Rockets are able to get James Harden in free agency this year, I feel like Harden would be a perfect mentor for a man. Even if the Rockets are unable to get Harden, I feel like a man and Jalen as a backcourt would be must-watch TV. With the 5th overall pick, I got the Detroit Pistons selecting Cam Whitmore. With the underwhelming season that Villanova had last year, Cam was the only bright spot about the team. With them unable to make March Madness last year, Cam still showed enough talent to show that he's the top 5 pick. It's almost shocking of how athletic he is. At 6'7", he has a 40-inch vertical, and at the same time, he weighs 232 pounds. And with that, plus being a really good finisher, it's almost impossible trying to stop him to get to the rim. He's a good self-creator, and he's very efficient when he's around the basket. He's not just limited to just being under the basket on the offensive end, he's also a good three-point shooter. Was able to hit 35% from behind the arc at Villanova. Along with his talents on the offensive end, he was able to hold his own on defense, averaging 1.4 steals a game. One of the concerns I had for him was the lack of passing. He only averaged 0.7 assists. Luckily, in having two guards that are good passers in Ivy and Cade, they can make up for the lack of playmaking that Cam brings. However, after watching his film, it shows that he's a better passer than the numbers show, so maybe his numbers can go up in the future. If they draft Cam, it gives them the opportunity to trade Bojan Bogdanovic, who is a must-shout-out player from contending teams. With an all-healthy team, I can see him running a lineup of Ivy, Cade, Cam, Duren, and Wiseman. With the 6th overall pick, I got the Orlando Magic selecting Ausar Thompson. With Ausar, his game is nearly identical to his brother in that he's a good defender and playmaker. He was able to average 2.4 steals and 1.1 blocks per game. Along with that, he averaged an impressive 6.1 assists per game. Although the main key differences between their games is the fact that man is way more explosive than Ausar. But at 6'7" with a 6'10" wingspan, Ausar is still an above-average athlete. He uses his physical abilities in order to grab boards, averaging 7.1 rebounds at OTE. Ausar also isn't good as a self-creator in the half-court as a man. The other key difference between the two is the fact that Ausar is a better three-point shooter than the man. During his first year at OTE, Ausar did struggle from the three-point line, but since then he's improved tremendously. He went from averaging 22% from three to 33%. Some may speculate if the shot is really true. Me personally, I believe in the transformation, with Ausar even having a better, smoother jump shot than the men, and he seems more confident with his shot. And if his shot is legitimate, I wouldn't be surprised if Ausar becomes a better player than his brother. With Ausar, I can see him playing the shooting guard / small forward role with Orlando, and I can even see him potentially playing point guard, or at least a point forward. With the 7th overall pick, I got the Indiana Pacers selecting Jarris Walker. Walker's an overall defensive juggernaut, and the Indiana Pacers is the perfect landing spot for him. He's agile enough to guard around the perimeter, and at 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan, he's big enough to guard bigs on the low post. Even though his main attraction is on the defensive end, he's still a good offensive player. He's creative in the low post and is able to hit difficult shots in the mid-range. He's also a good cutter and a lob threat, and I feel like he will excel alongside Tyrese Halliburton. At Houston, he shot a very respectable 35% from behind the arc. And with a nice shooting form, I believe that'll translate to the NBA. Although his assist numbers were down, averaging 1.8 assists per game, watching his film, he showed flashes of being a good passer. The addition of Walker and other offseason moves could be the final thing missing for the Pacers to make the playoffs. With the 8th overall pick, I got the Washington Wizards selecting Anthony Black. As I'm recording this, the Wizards are likely going to trade Bradley Beal, but I still think Anthony Black is a good starting piece for their rebuild. Anthony's a high IQ floor general that always has a pass-first mentality. He showed impressive flashes of being a good facilitator, averaging 3.9 assists per game. And at 6'9" with a good vision, he's constantly being compared to Josh Giddey. And he even credits Giddey as someone he models his game after. I still believe the Wizards are going to end up re-signing KP, and having a point guard like Black who can find him on the offensive end can be very beneficial. Or like Daniel Gafford, who plays better with a point guard that's a good facilitator, like he did with Russell Westbrook. A concern I have about his passing is his turnovers. At Arkansas, he almost averaged the same amount of turnovers than he did assists. He averaged 3 turnovers a game to his 3.9 assists a game. Besides his passing, on the offensive end, he's also a decent finisher at the rim. Surprisingly, he has bounce. He recorded about a 40-inch vertical and the max vertical jump in the combine. The other thing that scouts like about him is the fact that he's a really good defender. He has even been credited to be one of the best, or if not the best, guard defender in the draft class. He was able to get 2.1 steals and 0.6 blocks per game. However, one of his swing factors is his three-point shooting. Although his three-point percentage wasn't that bad at 30% from three, he was still very underwhelming from beyond the arc. However, he shot a better percentage on uncontested shots at 37.5% from three. With the 9th overall pick, I got the Utah Jazz selecting Nick Smith Jr. I see the Jazz in need for a point guard, and this pick is due for Smith's upside. Unfortunately, Smith did have an injury that affected his season. He wasn't able to play that much, only being at 17 games at Arkansas. However, out of the handful of games that he did play, he was able to show what he was capable of. He's an offensive threat that has a nice handle and is able to score at all 3 levels. The way he moves offensively reminds me of Bradley Beal, as well as, ironically, Jordan Clarkson. He uses his natural quickness to get easy buckets at the rim. Although his assist numbers were low, he still showed flashes of being a good playmaker. Something that he does need to work on, though, is his defense consistency. There'll be some plays that show that he'll be able to hold his own on the defensive end, and then there's other times where it seems like it's difficult for him to defend. This could simply be the fact that he's unable to physically guard them, just because of how skinny he is, coming at 185 pounds at 6'5". It can also simply just be his injury that he sustained that's limiting him on the defensive end. I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Smith becomes one of those players that exceeds their expectations and has people look back in the draft and wonder how he didn't go higher. With the Jazz being in the second year of the rebuild, they got plenty of time to develop Smith. I can also see the duo of Nick Smith and Larry Markkinen being an exciting one to watch. With the 10th overall pick, I got the Dallas Mavericks selecting Taylor Hendricks. This is another pick where the player comes where they're desperately needed. Last year, the Mavericks were ranked 23rd in the league in defensive rating. Hendricks can come in and immediately help them level up their defense. At 6'9", Taylor is credited to be one of the best defensive forwards in the draft. With a 7+ wingspan, that helps him be a great shot contester and rim protector. His year at UCF, he was able to get 1.7 blocks per game. He's also a great help/team defender. He's good at reading the offense and disrupting it by getting into passing lanes. And he's even able to hold his own on the perimeter against guards. Along with his defense, he brings a match with another necessity while playing with Luka, which is three-point shooting. He recorded an excellent 39.4% from the three-point line while attempting about 4 a game. He has a nice shooting form and he shoots with confidence, with most of his shots being assisted. For his frame, he's fairly explosive, and he uses this to his benefit to grab rebounds, being able to grab 7 rebounds per game. I feel like at some point he would be able to play center, but for now he'd probably just be a power forward. Overall, with the way he's able to defend and shoot, I see a lot of similarities to him with Jeremy Grant. With the 11th overall pick, I got the Orlando Magic selecting Derek Lively. Although Lively's stats don't stand out on paper, only averaging 5.2 points, he still showed a lot of promise on the defensive end at his 1 year at Duke. At 7'1" with a 7'7" wingspan, he averaged 2.4 blocks. According to ESPN, he gathered 82 blocks in the season, only playing 20 minutes per game. This addition of Lively, of course, improves their interior defense, but also allows them to replace the loss of Mo Bamba, who left during the trade deadline. On the offensive side, though, he is very limited, only being able to score when he's under the basket. Although he is athletic, so he should be considered a lob threat. I also see him being a good rebounder, with him averaging the same amount of rebounds as points at 5.4 rebounds per game. I've seen some pre-draft workout footage and it showed him shooting and hitting threes pretty consistently, with a pretty nice shooting form. From behind the arc, he shot a pretty terrible 15.4% from 3. This could be for the fact that he just didn't shoot that many three-pointers at Duke. He only shot 13 three-pointers for the season, and maybe if he shot more threes, that percentage could go up. Overall, he's just a super raw prospect with a high ceiling and a lot of potential. And he's also very young too. He just turned 19 last February. With the 12th overall pick, I got the Thunder selecting Grady Dick. Grady comes in fitting that Thunder's player type of being someone who plays multiple positions, like Josh Giddey or Jalen Williams. Being 6'8", he can play both shooting guard and small forward positions. He's a confident shooter that could be credited to be one of the best shooters in the draft. At his 1 year at Kansas, he was able to shoot an amazing 40% from 3. And he's not just a catch and shoot type of player, he's able to hit from all around the 3-point line. He's able to shoot off the dribble, pull up threes, off pump fakes, and even hit step back threes. Along with that, if he's driven off the 3-point line, he has a solid mid-range game too. He's not afraid to attack closeouts and getting to the bucket for a layup, and he's also an underrated finisher, having some impressive finishes at Kansas. Although he isn't a crazy playmaker, he still has good enough vision to find the open player in the half court or in the fast break. Finally, he isn't a 3-and-D type of player, but he does hustle a lot on the defensive end, even being able to get some steals, averaging 1.4 steals a game. With the 13th overall pick, I got the Raptors selecting Cason Wallace. Wallace comes into a great position with the Raptors, who are likely looking for a point guard with the belief that Fred VanVleet would be gone this summer. Here we got another Kentucky guard that comes into the draft that seems to be underappreciated, like Tyrese Maxey, Devin Booker, with both of them coming into the league and exceeding their expectations. Wallace has a chance of repeating this with him being one of the most well-rounded players in the draft. Offensively, he's a good three-point shooter, was able to shoot 41% from three during the beginning of the season. Although he did go through a shooting slump as the season went on, he still ended with a solid 34% from behind the arc. With a smooth, solid jump shot, I still believe he'll be a good three-point shooter in the NBA. He was able to show how good of a playmaker he was at Kentucky, averaging 4.3 assists per game. I would say he still needs to work on his self-creation, but when he was able to get to the rim, he showed that he was a good finisher. And of course, the main fascination with Wallace is the fact that he's a spectacular defender, with many scouts saying that he's the best defender in the class. Only being 6'4", he's limited to just being a perimeter defender, but he was able to get 2 steals a game at his 1 year at Kentucky. He fights over screens, gets into passing lanes, and is overall a really good team defender. With the 14th overall pick, I got the New Orleans Pelicans selecting Jordan Hawkins. In my mock draft, this is the second year in a row that a March Madness winner goes into the late lottery, with it last year being Ochai Agbaji. I see Hawkins as one of the underrated prospects in the lottery. He's truly a competitor who competes both on offense and defense and just does the right plays to make his team succeed. His main appeal is the fact that he's an elite shooter. His shooting form reminds me a lot of Klay Thompson's. For his sophomore season, he shot a great 38.8% from three, and he's really confident with his shot, being able to shoot anywhere on the 3-point line, averaging around 7 shots per game. Watching his film, a lot of the shots that he made were heavily contested, but you can tell that he put a lot of work into his jumper, not allowing defenders to interrupt the way he sets up his shot. He's also really good off ball. He's constantly moving, cutting through the lanes to get an open shot. This, plus his fast release, makes him even harder to defend. A concern I have for him is the fact that his offense is very limited and that it only consists of him shooting threes and occasionally cutting to the basket to get an open layup or a dunk. Another concern I have for him is the lack of playmaking. Watching his film, he didn't show any good signs of being a good playmaker, so hopefully he can develop this in the future. On the defensive end, he's an alright defender. It's still a work in progress, but he still has a good blueprint to being a good defender in the future, using his speed to keep up with defenders. If the Pelicans do end up trading Zion and getting a prospect like Scoot Henderson, I can see Jordan flourishing along with him and the rest of the team. Yo, what's up guys, just come back to say thanks for watching the video. Make sure you leave a like on it, drop a comment of what you guys thought of my first mock draft. And like I said before, let me know what you guys would have done differently if you like what I chose. Other than that, I'll see y'all later.